Hi, today we're going to talk about a meme that has been going out in social media that has been widely looked at something that's a falsehood. And it's an interesting review. You're going to enjoy it. Thank you.
Video title, Reading Between the Lines, Deconstructing the Military Collapse Graphic. Intro, Addressing the Viral Meme. When you look at this viral graphic claiming a military collapse and a, quote, massive refusal of U.S. troops, it's easy to see why mainstream fact-checkers label it flat-out misinformation or a dramatic conspiracy theory. On its surface, there is no physical, active mutiny happening on American soil. There are no troops marching in open revolt. When information channels are tightly monitored and speaking out carries severe consequences for active duty members, true resistance doesn't happen out loud in front of a news camera. Anything real happens at a whisper level. When I first saw this post and read the critique against it, I decided to stop looking at it as literal headline reporting and started breaking down its claims line by line through a practical lens. Part 1. Reports confirmed. The post leads with, reports confirmed. Standard media reporting requires direct, official confirmation before using a term like that. Mainstream outlets won't call this an insurrection, because doing so without official documentation would shut them down or get journalists targeted. However, if you look at independent reports and leaks, such as commentary surrounding high-level discussions between military leadership like General Dan Kane and executive authorities regarding operations in Iran, you see documented friction. The reports exist. They are just scattered across whistleblowing accounts, strategic pushbacks, and legal inquiries, rather than broadcasted on primetime news. Part 2. Executive directives and the demands for evidence. This tension isn't just about large-scale war. It extends directly to real-world operations at sea. Consider the military strikes targeting suspected drug trafficking boats in international waters off South America and the Caribbean. Executive directives called for lethal airstrikes against small vessels rather than traditional law enforcement interdictions and arrests. Standard maritime and military protocol typically calls for interdicting, searching, and arresting suspects. Firing on unconfirmed vessels without offering due process raised massive internal and legal concerns. Military legal advisors and lawmakers repeatedly pushed for concrete intelligence and proof to verify that these targets were actual narco-terrorists rather than civilian craft. When military personnel and legal officers ask for strict evidence and question whether orders violate international law, that represents a fundamental friction over executive power. Part 3. A massive refusal of U.S. troops. Lower-ranking service members don't have a public platform to declare a strike. They can't just walk away without facing court-martial. Their pushback comes in the form of leaking supply shortages, poor conditions, or low operational readiness. When we talk about a massive refusal, we have to look at the top of the chain. How many top commanders have been quietly removed, reassigned, or pressured out because they refused to violate constitutional boundaries? When generals raise operational objections or push back against extreme strategic commands behind closed doors, that is the military equivalent of a refusal. It isn't millions of soldiers dropping their rifles. It's leadership drawing a hard line on lawful orders. Part 4. The largest military insurrection in history. Historically, an insurrection meant armies clashing, like in the Civil War. But today, scale isn't measured by troop counts on a field. It's measured by firepower and global reach. The modern U.S. military holds global strike power and nuclear assets. If top strategic commanders quietly slow-walk or refuse orders that could trigger catastrophic conflict, the volume of power being restrained makes this dynamic larger in consequence than traditional battlefield revolts. Because open coordination is impossible under modern surveillance, this historic tension plays out through subtle non-compliance and behind-the-scenes legal friction. Conclusion. Asking the question. The graphic ends by asking, do you support the troops? Asking the question invites people to engage with the reality of what our military is facing. Whether you view this meme as exaggerated propaganda or a dramatic reflection of real institutional friction, one thing is clear. In high-stakes environments, you cannot just rely on surface-level headlines. You have to read between the lines. White House says U.S. fired twice at alleged drug boat. This video report is directly relevant as it details the legal concerns and military pushback regarding the direct airstrikes on suspected drug boats in international waters.